fellow authors, book lovers, and storytellers. Welcome to another Reader's Magnet featured author interview. We are currently live in all our streaming platforms YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. My name is Rob, and I am your host for today. And together with me right now is a woman who is the founder of Langford Leadership, an executive coach, a keynote speaker, and facilitator in the corporate environment, as she is in the organizational development for more than 20 years, and the author of The Speed of Passion. How relationship-based leadership drives innovation. Please welcome Miss Carol Ann Langford. How are you doing today, Miss Langford?
Woo! Doing great, Rob. So good to be with you. Thank you.
And it's a pleasure to have you right now, though. By the way, I really love to know more about you, and I want our viewers to as well see who Miss Carol Langford really is. So, Miss Carol, can you please show us your book, though? Because maybe people would like to see a copy of your book.
I can. Isn't that amazing? I have it right here with me, Rob. Look, here's the title. I got to put it in front of my face because of the way the
Yeah,
background bleeds in.
yeah, the
See,
background.
there it is. You got it?
So I got that's The Speed of Passion. That is the book. So, Carol, with your book, The Speed of Passion, who are your ideal readers?
I'd say anybody who works in an environment where they want to make a difference. That's who my readers are. Specifically over time, over the history of my career, it's occurred largely in corporate organizations. That would include startups and nonprofit organizations. So those have been the audiences. But I'd say anybody who's interested in making a difference and wants to let their passion, the passion for their purpose and the work that they do, enhance the contribution to the organization that they are serving. Yep.
Awesome, awesome. That's really awesome. So you're telling me, Carol, that these are the people that inspire you to write the book. Then is that correct?
Yes, I have had the great good fortune, Rob, over my life. I've been a teacher or a coach in many different contexts. Right out of college, I was a high school English teacher. Yeah, and I helped
Hmm.
build. Yeah, I know. I helped build an entire school system out in Manassas Park, Virginia. And I
Wait,
I
wait.
was I was a business owner with my brother,
Okay.
partner.
Hmm.
And then I felt a calling. I felt a deep, deep connection to the theater. So I went into the theater, which taught me so much about storytelling. I did that quite seriously. That brought me to New York
Hmm.
City many years ago. I have a
Hmm.
master's in fine arts from New York University's Tisch School of the Arts. And believe me, that program taught me so much about the way that the human being communicates. And
Hmm.
all of that learning, how to breathe, how to speak, how to use one's voice, how to be able to connect authentically with another person, how to listen. All of those aspects of the theater work have enhanced the work that I do in the organizational development field. So, all of that teaching, in addition to the 20 plus years I've been in the corporate training, executive coaching, keynote speaking space, I've
Hmm.
probably worked with over 20,000 people. Yep,
Oh
that many.
my God.
And this is what I can say to you.
Huh? Wait, what?
Yeah, I know. I know. Oh, I missed the part about I was associate professor at City University of New York too, after I got my master's degree. But
Okay.
all those conversations in my classes, all those conversations with the people that I've coached, I have become so inspired. I'm deeply, deeply
Hmm.
inspired about the human species and human beings. And I've noticed that everybody that I've worked with has shared the deep passion. I'd say the deep passion to make a difference. And that, of course, is where leadership comes in, because I believe that anybody can be a leader. Everyone is making an influence the second that they are contributing to to their organizations in any way that might look like, and especially when it comes to communication. Anybody who's speaking up in a meeting, you're making a
Hmm.
difference, you're having an influence. So all the people that I've worked with who have they've demonstrated so much courage, so much vision, they've done so many amazing things in the world. They're the people who have inspired me. The nice thing about the book, I'll just mention
Okay.
this to you. The nice thing about
Sure.
the
Go
book
ahead. Go ahead.
is I actually bring the reader into the coaching room. And I tell stories. I share examples of real people that I worked with who had particular obstacles, particular areas that they
Mhm.
wanted to develop and work on. And those stories I think are very compelling. I've heard many people who have read my book have said they really enjoyed reading those stories. So it's a real life, real world experience of executive
Okay.
coaching, particularly in the communication, the leadership communication space and the relationship
Cool.
building space. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So, Carol, so telling, because I do know you have the talent for storytelling, and you also told us though that there are some compelling stories within your book. So, what are your favorite stories of your clients that you could say is really a transformation or success that is the result of using your methodology that's being described in your book? Care to share at least one of those or two? Hey,
Oh,
take
yeah.
the floor is yours.
I'll share. Yeah, there's two that are coming to mind. The
Okay.
first one is there was a wonderful, a very, very gifted woman who
Hmm.
was a senior executive in her organization, and she came from a background that was more academic in nature.
Hmm.
And so what we noticed, one of the things that I do in my executive coaching is video recording. That's really helpful for the person being coached because they get to see immediately how they look and sound. So this particular woman was very gifted in the vision that she had to offer. Her communication style leaned a little bit more in the academic style. So it was more of a
Okay.
lecture. It was a lecture. She spoke very, very quickly. It
Mm.
data is really important in the content, there's no doubt, but there wasn't the context about how that data was leading to certain outcomes, certain preferred outcomes. So I worked with her on
Okay.
framing her content with a perspective statement, right? Instead of just making it a lecture about data, let's bring a point of view, let's bring a perspective, a context to this content. So if we bring a perspective statement, if we bring a recommendation, if we have a vision for what our audience or the people in the room who we're influencing, what they need to do, what action they need to take, and then if we follow it up with a benefit, a vision for the benefit, the outcome, the positive outcome
Hmm.
that will happen as a result of taking those actions, that's a leadership statement. So
Okay.
she was able to see through the video recording, her baseline video recording was rushed, it was full of data, but it had no organization to it. It didn't come with a vision for how we were going to use this data, how we were going to interpret it, how we were going to leverage it in a way that was going to make a positive impact. So by using that content organizing tool, my content
Hmm.
navigator, as I call it,
Okay.
by framing the introduction to the presentation and then using key points and some subpoints, and then concluding with that
Hmm.
perspective statement, the recommendation she had for her audience, the benefit that they would receive if they accepted her recommendation, that shifted her speaking from more didactic, lecturing, academic to engaging, motivational, and elevating, inspiring. It gave a much clearer sense of what was possible
Mm.
for her listeners. That's one story. The second
It's one of those.
story, yeah. What's when I share that story with you, what comes to mind for you, Rob? What?
Well, it's more of like there, because here's the thing though, like let's be honest. There are a lot of people who are they know how to speak. They know how to say their words though, but they just don't have that organization in mind though. But you trying to reach out and help out them and trying to make, again, as your tool says, it's your organizational tool for that. It really helped her. And but Carol, how long did it took her for at least for her to improve though?
Oh, well, this is the nice thing because with the video recording, then
Hmm.
I give them exercises to do. Boom, like that, you can see right away What is the impact when you bring that context, that point of view or perspective, the recommendation, the benefit, a couple of key points for discussion? Right away, she saw the impact. And right then and there, she said, okay, I see now why framing this information in a way that people are clear what they need to do with it and how the actions that they take are going to benefit the team or the organization in whatever outcome we're aspiring to. So I'm glad you noticed that. Yes. Now the second,
Really
let me
knows.
tell you second story. Let me tell you second story.
Mhm.
Is that
Sure.
okay? What were you going to say? I
No,
interrupted you. I'm sorry.
no, no, it's okay. I just wanted to comment though. It's really I can hear from you though. The way you talk though, really eloquent. I really love it. You know how to phrase perfect information, and it gets in my head though. I gotta give you that though. Like what you're doing right now is what I can really imagine from what you have taught her. I can really see it right now, and I really understand where you're coming from. Like it's really awesome. Gotta give you that, Carol.
Can
But
you
yeah,
feel
let's
the
move on.
passion, Rob? Can you
I
feel the
can feel it.
passion, man?
Now
That's
I
what it's
understand
about.
why the book is Speed of Passion though.
Yeah. So let me share this next story with you. This is a
Sure.
really profound experience, and many people who have read the book have said this was one of the stories that moved them. I was working with I would say a senior executive, and this was a person who a gentleman who was happened to be, I think, about 6'5", 6 feet 5. I think he'd been a football player in college prior. So he was 6'5". He had a fantastic, very rich, booming voice. He had a great big laugh. He had a big, charismatic personality. He was just a very, very wonderfully big person with a big personality, a big passion for what he was doing, a big desire to lead people, to support people, to help people. He was a favorite among all of the people that he worked with. He also happened to be African American. So
Okay.
so this is what was interesting is I was working with him and he was on a small team of people. And when he came in the morning, right, I just saw all of his gregarious charisma and his
Hmm.
wonderfully inspired way of communicating. He was just delightful to talk to and to listen to. But here's what
Hmm.
happened. The minute that we started to move into the business content, right? These people were preparing a big pitch that the team was going to be delivering. It was a business development pitch. The second that we got into the business content, this wonderful, large 6'5" man became very quiet. It's like he
Okay.
shrunk. His voice got quieter, his animation disappeared. He became very, very still. Now, let's just acknowledge in some environments, of course, we're always going to be respectful, and some
Yes.
environments are not suited for a big, expressive, gregarious delivery
Hmm.
style. But what I noticed in this man was all of his natural personality practically disappeared. And I
Okay.
was so surprised to see that. I went, what's happening? It's almost like he was less visible. So
Hmm.
we had a private coaching session and I asked him, I was very, very open about this. I did the video recording and he looked at it and I said, how do you want to be perceived here? That's a big question that I ask all of my people. What difference are you trying to make? What impact do you want to make? What outcome are you looking for? What transformational change are we looking for from the material that you're delivering? And he shared that it was a big idea. He wanted a big result. But then when we looked at how he was almost muted in his speaking, I said, "Tell me you know, is the way you're talking consistent with the impact that you want to have?" And he said, "No, not really." And I said, "Now I saw you when you walked in this morning and you were a completely different person." I said, "What happened to the charismatic, passionate, gregarious guy who was chatting everybody up this morning? What happened when you got into rehearsing this meeting?"
Hmm.
Here's what he said. He said, "Let me
Sure.
tell you." He said, "Throughout my career, I've been asked to tone it down. I've been told that I'm too
Mm.
big, too passionate. And he said, I'm really reluctant to be too loud. So we ended up having a really enriching conversation about earlier. Now, that feedback that he had received, which I think was not very constructive feedback, had
Yes.
happened to him many years prior. Many years prior, he'd had that feedback. But since that time, it kind of traumatized him a little bit because he was so worried about offending people or being too big or too passionate. So he toned himself down. So in the conversation, I was able to encourage him and reassure him that we wanted to see more of his natural personality, his authentic personality, and that even in a business environment, there was room for him to bring that passion, to bring that natural charisma. And that really, I mean, what's it like when we're listening to somebody who comes across as completely authentic, natural,
Hmm.
believable? What happens in that? I mean, don't we trust them more? Don't
Yeah,
we
we, we
trust them?
we we will.
Yeah,
We
we
will.
have better relationships. We get better relationships because people, it's like, oh, I trust this person because they're very believable.
Mm.
So what was wonderful, and I think what was liberating for this man, is as a result of the coaching, we restored to him his natural ability as a communicator. We restored to him his authority as a leader in that domain. We restored to him his confidence that he could be his whole self, and that that large passionate personality was really a gift that we wanted to honor, that we wanted to celebrate. And when he tried to tone it down, when he tried to be a small person, it just didn't work. And certainly the people who were going to be listening to this pitch, they weren't going to be experiencing the true nature of that individual. So you
Yeah.
see, we restored his authenticity, we restored his authority, we restored his confidence, and we restored his enjoyment. He came away from that experience having way it's like he could re-own his own appreciation for being a leader and the communication that comes in his leadership. So that was a really big victory. That was kind of a healing for
Yeah.
that person.
Yeah, listening to the story now, it's more of like I was given a comment before by someone I trusted, which is not constructive. And after that, I ceased to be who I really am as a person. But then
Really?
along came
That
you.
happened to you? Did that happen to
Oh yeah,
you?
it happened. I can really, I understand why the story is so compelling because before though, I had this problem whenever I'm talking to stuff, talking about like I'm really passionate when it comes to stuff, but people always tell me to tone it down because they're not. Yeah, it's. I was thinking like, is she talking about me or is she talking about this someone else? I was thinking, like it's kind
I
of
know.
weird though. There's a coincidence. Like they really tell me to tone it down because they keep on telling me that I might be passionate about some stuff that they're not passionate about. So I
Mm,
tend to be that small person. But
yes,
then someone came along and it's the same thing like what you did. Like there is a great transformation when the right people tell you on who you can be and what you can be in the future. And that
yes,
Carol, that story and that person that you'd help, that is really something I can say. That is not a success story, but that is a great achievement. Like for him, he would remember you all throughout his life. Like this Carol Ann helped me be the
yes,
person who I am today.
yes, yes, yes.
Really
Well,
awesome though.
yes, gotcha. Now let me add something here, Rob,
Sure.
because there's another question that comes up here when it comes to our personalities and the way we express ourselves.
Yes.
We always want to be respectful, right? Whenever we're contributing to a meeting, we're showing up as a leader, we have a contribution to make. We always want to make sure we have an understanding of the culture of the place where we're leading. And we always want to be respectful of the cultural elements that exist in that place. Now, I'll give you some examples in a second, but here's the
Sure.
thing. Here's the point. There's some cultures where a bigger, more robust, louder, faster delivery may fit very well. There are
Hmm.
other cultures where it might be a little too much. And we may want to, I'd say, temper our delivery to honor the cultural norms of the place that we're working. But that doesn't mean that we've got to disappear. If we need to temper the way that we present, doesn't mean we have to disappear. It doesn't mean we have to lose the passion. No, we just need to adjust it. Now, I'll give you an example.
Sure.
There are two different places where I've had the very good fortune of facilitating. One of the places was Moody's Investor Service.
Okay.
Moody's Investor Service, downtown New York, one of the classic, beautiful old New York buildings. And I just want to say, in that environment, there's immense intellectual processing happening there. There's a very left brain cultural, I'd say, value for assessing data, analyzing data, and the environment lends itself to, I'd say, a more analytic approach, to a more analytic style to the meetings that we have. So we want to honor that analytic style, that emphasis on a left brain focused form of
Hmm.
communication. So that might be a place where I'm not going to be like I'm at a football game, right?
Okay. Gotcha.
There's a different quality to my professionalism. But again, it doesn't mean that I have to remove my personality. I just need to honor the place that I'm visiting. Now,
Mm.
contrast that. Same year, I also facilitated at MTV in 42nd Street, Times Square, New York City. So
Okay.
at MTV, we had a very, very collaborative. It was, I'd say, very celebratory, more playful. The culture there emphasized collaboration, creativity. So there was an expectation of wanting to hear from people. There was an, I'd say, an appreciation of people's unveiled, creative, charismatic communication. So
Mm.
we want to honor those cultures and adjust. That doesn't mean we're becoming fake. It just means that we want to bring ourselves in alignment with those cultures. So knowing the audience, knowing the people that we're serving, respecting those people, and communicating in a way that is aligned with their environments. Does that distinction make sense to you, Rob?
Yes, it makes sense. It really makes perfect sense to me. Like right now, you explaining it, having the general idea that it's always a case to case basis. Whatever the environment or the culture that you are in, you need to learn how not to remove the personality, but to at least correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm sensing is you need to at least make sure your personality adapts within that culture and that environment. You don't need to remove who you are as a person. You can
Correct.
be who you are, you just need to adapt within the environment and culture that you're placed in. Am I making sense?
Respectfully. Yes,
Ah,
respectfully
ah,
adapt to that environment. But
awesome, awesome.
I still say we still want to bring who we are, who we
Mm-hmm,
are. So we're not toning ourselves down. We're honoring who we are while we
mm-hmm.
are adapting respectfully to those environments. I hope that
And
distinction is clear.
that's loud and clear, Carol. So, Carol so I just want to make sure that distinction respectfully within the environment, though, you're telling me that it is part of the components of the book that you think will deliver those benefits and impact then?
Oh
Are
yes.
there, oh yeah, go on.
No, go ahead. I
Yeah.
interrupted.
No, it's okay. So I just wanted to know if there are other methods that other people can go, because again, my situation and other people's situation might not be the same, but are there other methods in your book that could still deliver these impacts and benefits to them?
Oh, yes. The book focuses on a number of different areas. The
Mm-hmm.
first, third, fourth, and fifth chapters were very specifically focusing on the executive communication skills. And
Mm-hmm.
in those chapters, I'm telling the stories of executives that I've coached. Chapter 2 is more my own journey, my own professional and personal journey. So a
Okay.
lot of people have enjoyed that chapter because there are more stories about my own experiences.
Mm-hmm.
When we get further into the book, I acknowledge some of the new mechanisms that have come into leadership development that include emotional intelligence,
Oh.
intention setting. Yes, there's one chapter that's all about breaking barriers. Uh, I'm featuring the work of a man named Dr. David Bach, and I did a workshop
Mm-hmm.
with him. It was a private workshop with him. There were about 12 of us.
Mm-hmm.
His focus was intentionality, bringing intention into our goal setting, creating big goals that require us to move through whatever obstacles or barriers we might have within ourselves. Now, we did a day of
Mm-hmm.
meditation, mindfulness practice, imagining some of the goals that we had for ourselves, creating intentionality around that. But the real benefit from the program experience was on the second day. Now, here's what
Okay.
happened. Dr. David Bach, he brought to the class a man who he held the record in board breaking for the number of boards that had been broken. Have you heard of that practice, board breaking? It's when people
No.
have a stack of wooden boards. Sometimes it's bricks, but in this case, it was a
Oh, yeah.
stack of boards, and
Mm-hmm.
there are hundreds of them lined up. And what these fellows do is they very quickly they go to each stack of boards and they break them. They break them in half with their hands, with their fists.
Mm-hmm.
This man who was the guest was the person who he held the highest number of boards broken. He held the record, and he was
Okay.
our teacher that day. So what he taught us was the process for breaking a wooden board. Yes. And what went
Okay.
into that process was imagining, using that mindfulness practice to see the outcome that we wanted. And you know what? Sports coaches use this technique all the time. Olympic athletes have coaches that teach them this. So you get in your mind, you imagine the outcome that you're looking for. So if I've got this wooden board and I want to break this board, I have to see it in my imagination. It's just like the Kansas City Chiefs, right? They had to see their victory in their
Mm-hmm.
last football game, right? All of them have to imagine that. So we're going to see that in our imagination. Then through breath, mindfulness practice, we bring that intentionality into the body. So
Mm-hmm.
we're experiencing it in our body, seeing it in our mind's eye, meditating on this. And by the way, there's a video of me doing
Oh.
this. Came time, there was the board. I came up, I did the whole practice as he told us. And by golly, I came back, breathed in deep, brought my hand down, and by golly, Rob, I actually broke that wooden board like that.
Wait. What? You
Yes,
could.
yes. And most of us, all of us in that group were able to break our boards as a result of that practice,
Mm-hmm.
which was astonishing. I never in a million years
Yeah.
thought I would
Actually.
be able to crack in half a wooden
Mm-hmm.
board. But that demonstrated the power of intention, the power of imagination, the power of seeing the outcome that
Oh.
you're working toward and making it
Oh.
happen. That's where neuroscience, right? I
Mm-hmm.
include neuroplasticity and the way that we're
Mm-hmm.
learning about the brain and how the brain and the body working together toward an outcome can create very, very powerful victories for you. So breaking barriers is an element that we work on in that book. bringing in emotional intelligence into our conversation. There's a really hilarious story of me at the age of
Hmm.
25
Okay.
having an interesting conversation with a police officer.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
some juicy details that people need to find out, though.
Well, it's a funny story. Everybody who's read the story said it was hilarious because at the age of 25, I did not have very elevated emotional intelligence when it came to
Hmm.
talking with police officers who I felt he pulled me over in the evening,
Hmm.
and I didn't think I had done anything wrong. And I got intimidated by him and I argued with him. And
Oh,
I
okay.
but here was the amazing there's an amazing transformation in this story because I objected to this police officer pulling me over. And
Hmm.
and I said, I don't think I've done anything wrong. And he said, well, you did disobey the law. And I said, yeah, but that law doesn't really matter right now because the situation, the circumstances, it's
Okay.
late at night, there's no traffic around. I didn't do anything that was not safe. Well,
Hmm.
I got mad and he gave me a ticket, and I
Oh,
got mad about
okay.
that. So I was mad, and I was starting to
Hmm.
drive off. And do you know that police officer, he pulled me over again.
Again?
Yes. And
For
I was,
what?
well, that's what I said. I said, what now? I said, what did I do now? Are you going to give me another ticket for something else? Listen to this. Listen to this. This is what the guy said to me. He said, no, I wasn't going to give you a ticket. I wasn't going to give you a ticket. He said, it was late at night. I saw you did a U-turn. I was worried about you, and I was afraid that you were in trouble. That's why I pulled you over.
Oh,
He said, and you know what? When you were mad at me, you hurt my feelings.
wow. Wow. Wait,
True
what?
story. And I'm sitting in my car, and this police officer says to me, you, in your mean-spirited communication, objecting to being pulled over, you hurt my feelings. Now, is that something extraordinary? Do you see the
Yes.
vulnerability that he brought there?
Yes.
And what do
Hmm.
you think was the impact on me, this 25-year-old spoiled kid objecting to this police officer who was only trying to help me? What was
You'll
the
feel
impact on
guilty
you?
about it. Like you'll feel guilty, sad about it. Like he just wanted to. He was concerned about me, and I
Yes,
assume that he
yes,
was trying to take. Wow.
yes. So
Ugh.
that was one of my big lessons in life about the importance of emotional intelligence. I did not have much emotional intelligence in that at that moment,
Hmm.
but I certainly learned. And it was so moving to me when the
Hmm.
police officer was willing to be that vulnerable and that open. And what happened is he helped me see myself at that time.
That's.
I was able to
Mm.
recognize that I was not the best person of myself that I wanted to be. He was a teacher. He was a great teacher. Sometimes I think he was like an angel
Oh
sent,
wait, he was.
to tell me, to help me wake up about who I was becoming. So there's stories like that in there, right? Emotional intelligence, conversational intelligence, conflict transformation. Oh my gosh, the story on that chapter. There was a guy, I live in Brooklyn. I've lived in Brooklyn a long time.
Hmm.
I lived in a ground floor apartment, so street
Hmm.
level. And boy, oh boy, there was a day when a guy broke into my apartment. Yep,
Okay.
broke into my apartment and he asked me for money. And that was a very, very interesting story because I happened at that moment to be reading about conflict transformation. And I swear it really helped me. I'm not going to tell you what happened in that story. People are going to have to read the book, The Speed of Passion, How Relationship Based Leadership Drives Innovation. Yeah, here it is.
Awesome. Awesome.
I'll
Good
find out
thing
what
though.
happened when the guy broke into my apartment and asked me he told me, shaking me down for money. You have to read the book. But another example about how the way we handle conflict
Hmm.
can be an agent of transformation. Amazing things can happen when we do that with skill. Conflict is something that's normal.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
one of the organizations that I've had the privilege of working with, it's called Search for Common Ground. And they work
Yes.
in 36 countries around the world. They were nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2018 for their work in transforming violent conflict into creative transformation. So I've been certified in their program, and I love their philosophy because they say, conflict is neither good nor bad. Conflict exists, it's part of the human condition.
Hmm.
If we can use conflict wisely, if we can leverage conflict gracefully, skillfully, we can transform all those arguments into some kind of creative collaboration. Of course, that's
Awesome.
helpful if we bring the emotional intelligence, the cultural intelligence, and
Hmm.
use the tools and techniques of listening, of bringing appreciation and respect for others. So I really like the idea that especially violent conflict, we don't have to get violent with each other. We don't have to. There are ways
Awesome.
that we can elevate the conversation so that everyone can be heard respectfully. We can tolerate. That's one thing that Search for Common Ground does. It says let's tolerate our differences. Let's acknowledge where we're different, tolerate our differences, and let's build on what we have in common. Tolerate the
Awesome.
differences and build on our commonalities. So you'll see in that chapter on conflict what happened with the man who broke into my apartment and robbed me.
Well,
You
hey,
find that's
people will
true?
find out.
You find that's
They'll
true,
find out
Rob,
about
that
that.
conflict, yeah, that conflict, that when we're more respectful, when we resist getting reactive and violent, that we can find better outcomes to conflict. Have you found that in your life?
Yes, actually, I have this motto in life though. Like I keep on saying this, like, whenever I don't go to bed angry, because you'll still wake up feeling sour. So it's still a mantra that I have though. Don't make emotions at the don't make decisions at the peak of your emotions, because again, you never know what's the story behind the other part of the world. You need to make
Yes.
sure that you have the time to listen, process, and understand the whole thing. You don't need to get mad immediately. Like the lesson that you've learned when you were 25 years old, I think that was a great trigger for you to understand, for also for people to understand that in life though, it doesn't mean that if someone stops you or if someone tells you something that they want to scold you or give you something bad. They might be concerned about you, but you didn't give them the time to at least explain their
Mm.
side of the story. Well, that's really awesome, Carol. Really awesome though. Really love it. So
Well, and it's
about
and
you,
it,
Carol. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
and we have to
Continue.
say that it is important. I'll quote Taylor Swift here. She says we have to draw
Okay.
gentle boundaries. We do, when people are not respectful to us, or there's aggression coming toward us, we have to know how to draw gentle boundaries. Drawing
Hmm.
boundaries skillfully.
Hmm.
That means without harming someone else. That's at the heart of
Agree.
conflict transformation. Yeah, and
I
then we do
agree on
want to
that.
draw those
Gosh.
boundaries. It's important that we take care of ourselves, respect others while we're respecting ourselves. No doubt.
Awesome. 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 Really love. So, to all our viewers though, Caroline Langford's book, The Speed of Passion, How Relationship-Based Leadership Drives Innovation, is available through Amazon. And hey, if you want to contact Miss Caroline Langford, you can visit her website at www.langfordleadership.com. So, Carol, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate the stories. And hey, to all the viewers who listened and seen this video, I can guarantee that this moment right now that you watch this is going to be something really transformative. So, Carol, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And it's really fun having a
My
conversation with
pleasure,
you and
Rob.
having you for
I
your strategy.
I kind of feel like
Yes?
for the Festival of Storytellers, telling stories today was a good approach to our discussion. What do you think? Was that a good idea? Did we have a do we was it a good strategy to tell stories today since we're honoring the Festival of Storytellers?
You know what? Talking about Carol, since you'll be also joining the festival of storytellers, giving them the idea that you have these stories to tell is something that they can look forward. So, for people who will be joining on the festival of storytellers, which will be happening next week, please tune in. We will be providing Carol and Langford's schedule, so at least you can check her live streams. And hey, who knows? You have any questions? You can always ask her directly. So, Carol, once again, Thank you very much. Looking forward to see you next week at the festival. And here at Readers Magnet, we share stories with the world. Bye and have a good day.
Thanks, Rob. It was a pleasure. Appreciate your help today. Take care.
Appreciate you as well, Cal. Bye
You
bye.
betcha.